I'm Edie Lush, Executive Editor of HubCulture, and very, very pleased to have Gaby Darbyshire step into my studio. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
So, General Partner at Dangerous Ventures. And I'd love to speak to you. It's Women's History Month, International Women's Day. The Secretary General of the United Nations said earlier this week that we had rolled back on a number of fronts when it comes to gender equality. From your perspective, how does that look?
Well, I think that from the venture ecosystem, one of the things that's been coming out recently is a lot of data saying that investment dollars into female founders and diverse founders generally is really low and has decreased over the last couple of years. And so instead of going in a good direction upwards, it's gone backwards. And so to your point, I feel that that is true in the ecosystem. Sometimes data doesn't tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
It can be sliced and diced many different ways. So there's a little bit more digging that needs to be done to figure out exactly what's happening. But generally speaking, I believe that there's a top-down and a bottom-up movement that needs to happen at the same time. From the top down, leaders, corporate CEOs, they have to hire more women, more diversity. You have to recognize people around you in order to feel comfortable and to progress.
Yeah.
But also at the bottom end, you need to have more investment into women and diverse founders and encourage them to be the change they want to see in the world, essentially, and for them to grow up into being the leaders of tomorrow that will then bring more diversity into the workplace themselves. And if you don't give them the chance at the bottom, they're not going to grow to be the leaders of tomorrow that can then make more of an impact later. So from a venture perspective, I think we need to spend a lot of time focusing on how to bring more gender and diversity into the ecosystem.
So how practically do we do that? How do we bring more diversity into the ecosystem?
I mean, I think a lot of it's the education of don't always invest in the people you recognize who look like you. That's number one. That requires help from allies of all flavors, male, female, and everything else. There's also the notion that you can try to dedicate certain avenues of financing from sort of people who focus only on that. One of the problems with that, I think, and the criticisms of that is that if you don't have a diversity of all of your slate, then you end up getting focused into ways that can sometimes be used against you. But I think generally speaking, we need more women investors, because if more women took the chance on other women, they would help them succeed and rise to the top. And I think there's even stranger statistics about the number of women who are LPs in funds or investors themselves, and they tend to take a little less risk than men, and that's reflected on the cap table of companies. And I would like to personally see a lot more females become investors in companies and in funds.
So what do we need to do to get more women investing?
I think that they need to understand that they can do it, that's a risk worth taking for them to increase their own personal wealth. Obviously, this is all relative to the amount that you have as disposable income to invest. I'm talking about people who currently would put their money in the stock market, who might now decide they want to take a chance to go a little lower in the stack and invest in women at the beginning of their journey. This does obviously not apply to everybody. I think that they also need to know that it's available to them, and typically the problem with large venture firms is that the entry price of getting into a fund is way too high. And so there are now a number of smaller nano and micro funds that allow much smaller checks. And I say to all young women, if you've got a spare amount of money from your bonus or something else, go put it into a fund. Learn what it's like to be an investor. Learn what it's like to be a supporter of female founders and watch them grow and thrive, and then you will be helping to make those changes happen.
Tell me finally, what encourages you to keep fighting? What have you seen recently that you think, maybe we are getting somewhere?
Because I just see brilliant founders generally, and I see a lot of brilliant female founders and diverse founders, and I want to see them succeed. And every time I see another one succeed, I go, cha-ching, another angel got its wings.
Great. Thank you so much, Gaby, for stopping by the
It's my
HubCulture
pleasure.
studio here in Los Angeles.